Hello, Kris here, Green Sabre, episode 23 of Green Sabre's Doom Telly. And today's, slightly at a bit of a loose end, really, to be honest with you. There was a couple of ideas that I've got. There's still the Doom Metal and the Black Metal and the Death Metal top 10 that will eventually see the light of day at some point. But to be honest, I'm waiting on, like with the Doom Metal one, for example, there's a couple of classic seminal pieces that I don't have any physical copy of, and I kind of... and I'd rather have physical copies of stuff when I'm doing these top 10s, because I mean, ultimately, if I'm going to truly be a part of this vinyl community on YouTube, I kind of need to fucking have physical copies of these things. So yeah, there's only a couple on the Doom Metal one that I need some physical copies of. A few on the Black Metal one. The Black Metal one really is stuff that I've only ever really had download a lot of the time, certainly the more modern stuff. So yeah, I need to do much better. The Death Metal one, I think I've got most of, but I'm still undecided on a couple of those. But anyway, so with all that in mind, where I said I'd rather have physical copies, I'm about to do the top 10 modern black metal albums list, of which I don't fucking own half of in any physical copy. So you're about to get a lot of images. So scrub all that shite I just told you. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, I'm going to do... Yeah, so like I say, it was a bit of a loose end. And there was Altars of Madness who were shouting out the other week on, I think it was a Roger Kjovik video. He recently did a top 10 modern black metal albums. And I thought, oh, that's a good one. But I can't... Like I say, I've been in black metal over the years. I got into it very loosely back in 94 when the whole fucking church burning and murdering and all that stuff kicked off. It piqued my interest and all that, and I kind of got a little exposure of it back then, but it wasn't on the top of my radar like death metal and doom metal was back then at that time. But yeah, since I've probably explained this on videos previously, but maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I got back into it. Maybe slightly more than that. I can't remember the exact timeline, to be honest with you, but I know that there was a couple of albums that really were seismic in getting me back into the black metal stuff. And really, in all honesty, even though I was aware of it and enjoyed some of it back in the whole second wave of it, Norwegian stuff that came out back in the day, it really didn't... I don't think I understood it properly. I don't think it resonated like it does now. I feel like I get it now. So yeah, I would still personally consider myself a bit of a newcomer to this black metal game, and I'm still finding which path to go down and so on. I mean, I've got a better idea now, let's put it that way. So yeah, I think that's another reason why I've put off my greatest black metal albums of all time list, because I'm not I don't personally feel like I'm quite the authority on it yet but you know, it's all about personal opinions and personal choice. That's the beauty of these videos. So anyway, 3.5 fucking minutes of waffle already. So let's crack on with it. So yeah, long story short, it was an Altars of Madness video that he did, where he did the top 10 modern black metal albums. Now, he is the absolute fucking authority on this stuff, really, is Altars of Madness. He knows what he's talking about on this. So I've discovered loads of modern black metal stuff via his channel. So thank you again, Matt, for all the discoveries that have come my way. John at Rock and Metal Plus, though, had also done his own top 10 of modern black metal albums, and I thought, yeah, I should probably have a go at this, and John sort of convinced me to have a go as well. So that's what you're going to get today. I've compiled a list. Now, as I've mentioned on previous videos, black metal does seem to have... All metal genres have got gatekeepers in it and stuff like that. Black metal is... they seem particularly prevalent in this scene, though, with lots of people. Like, if it's not classic, it can fuck off, and, you know, and various... that's not black metal, you bastard, kind of opinions on stuff. Well, I'm sure with a couple of these, I'm about to get some of similar said opinions. Like, how dare you put that in a top 10 modern album? I dare, and, you know... If you've got a problem with it, put it in the comments and we'll talk about it like adults. And we'll agree that my list was correct. So, yeah, without further ado, let's get on with it. So, a couple of shout-outs first. Some bands that I've really got into that haven't made the list. And I can think of straight off the bat, White Ward. Now, again, there'll be people's ears pricked up there as if, White Ward, black metal, get out of it. But they are, yeah, it's black metal with a twist, most certainly. Probably less black metal than it is the alternative, if you will, for want of a better phrase. But White Ward deserve a mention. Wayfarer deserve a mention. Recently really got into them. Is it the World's Blood album in particular with the Native American guy on the front of it and stuff? There's another Wayfarer one as well. Again, I think Altars of Madness have mentioned this. It's a more recent one, and it's like a Western theme. I really enjoy that Western and Native American sort of vibe thing, but mainly the Western thing, but what they're going for on there. So Wayfarer, shout out. Nightbringer. Another project of Kyle Spanswick, is it, from Kris? Kris will get a mention on this list. But Nightbringer as well is banned. I think they're still technically going. I don't think he's folded them in order to do the Kris thing. The Kris thing is clearly his current commitment as such, like. But Nightbringer have done some fucking sensational albums. There's a track, I forget which album it's on, but Womb of Nyx, is it called? What a tune. If you've not heard that, check it out. So yeah, Nightwinger. That's the hair metal, black metal, Winger cover album. Nightbringer. Black Braid, another Native American project, I think from sort of upstate New York in America somewhere. And yeah, that's a fantastic, their first album, One, I think it's called, that came out last year. Sensational stuff. Again, I need a physical copy of that. Wolves in the Throne Room, a discovery from, I missed them because I was watching someone else at the same time that they were on at Damnation last year. But I was gutted about that because I did want to see them, Wolves in the Throne Room. But alas, I'll catch them the next time they play. But yeah, really impressive. I think they're a UK band. Or the US anyway, whatever they are. Yeah, I really like what I've heard of them, so shout out to them. Lamp of Murmur as well, which I literally discovered via John at Rock and Metal Plus, via his top 10. I'll be honest, I hadn't heard of him before his top 10. Checked him out, really enjoyed it, so thank you again, John. So a few shout outs there, so let's get to the list. And at number 10, now I think I've covered all kind of genre bases of this black metal thing. At number 10 though is a band that I've fairly recently discovered. Back end of last year I discovered them, it was. And I think they're a US, I think they're a Colorado based American black metal band called Minenwerfer. And now I don't want to sort of say where they sit politically, but I think it's sketchy. Is probably the best way of putting it. There's nothing overt about it. I mean, Minenwerfer would be slightly off-putting with the name of it. And the album that I'm talking about in particular, which again, I've only got a digital copy of, I don't have the physical media of it yet, is Alpenpass, or Alpenpasser, however you pronounce it. But yeah, should be image arriving in the bottom corner shortly. What a sensational album. And I think again, this was probably Altars of Madness that I've discovered this band. But I've just written down like raw, brutal, melodic. And the thing I love about the American scene is it's absolutely balls to the wall, in your fucking face, brutal black metal. But not always raw in that lo-fi sense. The production values seem to be a lot higher on a lot of the US scene stuff, and I really like that. There's some black metal purists that feel like, no, it should be fucking lo-fi and sound like it's been recorded in a car boot going down the fucking M62. But I really enjoy the production values a lot of the modern US, well, a lot of the global stuff, all of it really, but the modern US stuff in particular has got a really high-end death metal sensibility to the production values, and I love that. And this in particular, this Minenwerfer album, is sensational. Now, the subject matter of all their stuff is World War I era German sort of storytelling and all that. It's a really good subject. Again, I've not seen enough evidence to say that they're overtly NSBM. I've not quite seen enough evidence for my liking to say that they're clearly not NSBM. But again, this is a subject for another fucking time, and I've already told you on previous videos where I sit morally and ethically, in my view, on this stuff. I would just consider this band sketchy. So if sketchy is too much for you, then fair enough. But you're missing out on a treat. And yeah, this Alpenpass in particular, the new album that's name escapes me, it's something else in German, is really fucking good. So I'm hoping to get hold of some CD copies. The vinyl of these is quite expensive, if I imagine. So I might get hold of some CD copies. But yeah, coming in at number 10, what a great album that Alpenpass is. The other note that I made, technical chops. The soloist clearly knows what he's doing. There's some of the really intricate technicalities hidden away on this. So yeah, if kind of more musical chops. A lot of people are put off with black metal because they think it's far too lo-fi and they can't hear the talent in there. Personally, I would say you're clearly not fucking trying hard enough. Listen carefully. You know, if you're into talented musicianship and chops and all that kind of stuff, then you should be able to fucking hear it in all stuff, not just selectively. So listen harder, because there's some really good technical chops in this album in particular, but in a lot of other stuff. So yeah, enough on that. Now, coming in at number 9 is another very difficult to pronounce band and album. And again, another discovery directly from Altars of Madness. I'd not heard of them beforehand. And it's the Danish band Afski. And the album is, okay, brace yourself, Ofte Jeg Drømmer Meg Død. I think that's how it's pronounced. Ofte Jeg Drømmer Meg Død. Sounds like how it's pronounced in Danish. For any Danish or Scandinavians listening, apologies for fucking butchering your beautiful language. Anyway, what a great album that is. Melodic, melancholic. It's... I think Altars of Madness put it beautifully because he talked about this album and he said it made him sad. And it is. It's just now I have friends non-metalists that are like, why do you want to listen to that if it makes you sad? It's like, yeah, but it makes me sad in an uplift. It's difficult to describe, but it makes me feel alive, feeling melancholic and sad. It sounds counterintuitive, but sad and melancholic makes me feel I can just immerse myself in that, and I'm not wallowing in it, wanting to jump off a fucking bridge somewhere. It's just, it makes me feel alive, makes me feel the peaks and troughs of emotions. That's what music should do to you. And I think this is a great, I mean, I feel like I've talked this up fucking massively, that it's an emotional roller coaster, and it sort of is in a way. There's some beautiful clean acoustic work on there, some straight up ripping black metal, and it's just, if you've not heard of Afski, and again, I've only got a digital copy of this, there'll be an image in the bottom corner. It's probably already gone by now, but yeah, what a fantastic album. Afski, and I'll try and say it again, Ofte Jeg Drømmer Meg Død. There we are. How's that? That's because I've got my little what's it called, my Talkie Learn Languages app on phone for kids. Right, okay. Coming in next, another reasonably hard to pronounce band, but a French black metal band, Blut aus Nord, and their album from last year, Disharmonium. There'll be Major League Blut aus Nord fans that will tell you some of their earlier stuff's actually better, but it was Disharmonium that hooked me, and again, made me discover this band. What they managed to capture on that album, and again, digital copy only, so image floating around somewhere. What they managed to capture on that album is nothing short of spectacular. There's a Lovecraftian vibe to all of it. It is uneasy, it's unnerving, it's ethereal, it's melancholic, it's really, in a weird way, it's a really difficult listen. Yeah, I don't think it's just something you can kind of... I think it's the channel Into the Necrosphere with, is it Jackie Smiths that runs it? Again, and Jackie's the reason why I discovered Blut aus Nord, so shout out. But I think he said he'd been away somewhere or something like that, and I think they'd had a night of all-night drinking. He was on the come-down of all fucking hangovers by the sounds of it. Had to fly home and listen to that on the flight home. And I can't imagine what that must have felt like, because it's an uneasy listen. It makes you feel detached, almost. And I suppose ultimately it comes down to atmosphere, and how they fucking capture that on that record is... I would love to be able to write like that. Honestly, I would love to be able to write that kind of detached, dystopian... it's the word I'm looking for. Hopelessness that album captures, and it's just fucking sensational. So yeah, my number 8, Blut aus Nord, Disharmonium. Fantastic album. Okay, number 7, and the first one that I've got a physical copy of. Now, I can already audibly hear the wincing coming from some of you when you see this, but let me take it out of this so in order to get less glare. But it is Death Heaven's Sunbather. Yep, I've already heard that. What? How dare you put this on this list? It's on this fucking list, and live with it. Death Heaven, and in particular this album, Sunbather, is the catalyst, along with another band that's going to turn up later on, that switched me on to black metal fully, correctly. So even though it might not be fucking black metal enough for you, and it might be a bit hipster and fucking coffee bar and check shirts and beards and tattoos for some of you purists out there, it did its fucking job. It made me realise the power, the emotional power of black metal. And that's thanks to this album and a few others that will be mentioned. But what Death Heaven do, yeah, it's not strictly pure black metal. A lot of this list isn't for me personally, so fucking get over it. But there is enough black metal on here for me to always consider this a black metal record. So fuck you if you think otherwise. But sorry, very confrontational, very potty-mouthed as well. But yeah, there is, like I say, I've mentioned it before. Is it called black gaze? It's like shoegaze, black metal. But the melody and the melancholy and the emotion that's in this record is beautiful at times. And the juxtaposition of having that brutal, raw black metal attack alongside it is what makes this album spectacular. I love their more modern stuff where the black metal's been almost stripped out of it completely, apart from just in pockets, and it's even more effective for that. I think what Death Heaven do is fabulous. I was lucky enough to catch them in Manchester at Gorilla last year. My wife Tracy came with me that night, and yeah, I don't think it was her bag really. But I loved it. They were sensational. Great live band. Love the riffs. You can hear all classic black metal. You can hear where they're influenced. You can hear elements of Burzum in there. You can hear elements of fucking Dark Throne in there. There's more modern twists thrown in as well. But it's that shoegazy, almost indie vibe that they mix with it. White Ward that I mentioned earlier in an honourable mentions are another band that do it brilliantly. Not as well as Death Heaven for me though. I think Death Heaven is spectacular. And if you're wrong, you're a grotesquely ugly freak. Right, okay, so enough of that. Number 6, and I've got some physical media. It came in the post the other day. It's Sacred Sun. That's Dane on the front there. Sacred Sun have some of the most fabulous album covers ever, personally. Anyway, this is their most recent album. The print is so fucking small on the back of it. Privolver, I think this one's called. Privolver. Anyway, this is not the album that I'm talking about. This is our latest one, but it was just to show you it's Sacred Sun. I have ordered the album I'm talking about and a few others, and I'm just waiting for them to come in the post. The Sacred Sun album that I'm talking about, that comes in at my number 7, is the self-titled debut. Image inserted. Now look at that for an album cover. One of the greatest album covers of all time. Basically, one of his holiday snaps somewhere. I don't know, it looks like Crete or Greece somewhere. But anyway, what a sensational album. Now, this is raw, pure black metal in its kind of rawest form, if you will, and most brutal form, in a sense. And it's just, I think I love all Sacred Sun stuff, even the more ambient kind of black metal synthy type stuff that he's done on a couple of records. There's elements of that synth on the most recent one as well. If you've not heard it, go out and do so. It's a cracker. But the debut, straight up balls to the wall black metal for the most part of it. And it's a sensational record. And again, one of them that made me realise, wow, there's so much vibrant stuff on this more modern scene. And I think that's it in a case in point, and why I've disappeared down this black metal rabbit hole for so long. For me, personally, on the current scene, besides Doom, of course, I think Doom metal and black metal are the most vital genres of metal at the moment out there. I think they're the ones that have got the most interesting stuff happening, the most inventive stuff, the most retro stuff almost as well. I just think that black metal and doom metal are vital at the moment. I think if you're not listening to it, you're really missing out. This is where it's at the moment. I'm not going to liken it to, because when I was growing up, I was incredibly fortunate to capture the back end of the thrash wave, because I started getting into metal in like 1988, really. 88 was the turning point with Maiden and Metallica and Slayer and so on. So I caught the back end of the thrash fucking wave. So I was incredibly lucky. I was even luckier, though, to be there at the fucking consummation point of the death metal, the late 80s, early 90s death metal scene. First wave, really. I was there when it blew up, and I felt so lucky to be there when it fucking exploded onto the scene. And this, I don't know, it might yet prove to be the same, I don't know, but this feels similar to me. I feel like I'm in the middle of the black metal revival wave. Is this like fucking 4th or 5th generation now, whatever it is? But it feels good to be in the middle of it. It feels like, yeah, this is the scene, this is where it's happening at the moment. And Sacred Son were one of them that made me realise, wow, there's so much great stuff going on. So yeah, Sacred Son, shout out to their self-titled debut from 2017, I think it was. Okay, number 5, and another recent discovery, and it is Abduction and their album Black Blood. Look at that brilliant Evil album cover. I sometimes wonder if I should have picked this for me Evil album covers one that I did the other week. But anyway, what a discovery. This band, I've sort of got everything. Now, I think it's a one-man project, to be honest with you, but I was lucky enough to catch them live with Winter Philith at the back end of last year. And he had a live touring band that all looked the fucking part. I mean, they were a sort of scary-looking bunch on that stage. The atmosphere they created was amazing, and that is what I'd say about this album and why it's in my list. The atmosphere that is created on this is sensational. There's a raw, brutal, death metal, black metal vibe to it in places, but there's tons of atmosphere as well and melancholy in places. And also other stuff that I've learned from a guitarist perspective. There's stuff on here that reminds me, riff-wise, of Mastodon. That kind of ambient, slightly ethereal, picking out single notes from riffs here and there and so on and so forth. Some of the riffage has got a real Mastodon vibe to it, and I love that. It gives it a real modern flair to it, and it's a brilliant modern take on black metal. And I think ultimately, when we're talking about top 10 modern black metal albums, I think you've got to talk about bands that do break the mold slightly. And I think Abduction are a band that, certainly on this album, I need to dig down into their back catalogue a bit better, because there's a couple of other EPs and albums that I need to check out, and splits and various things. But if this is anything to go by, fucking hell, there's a bright future for this band. So that's why they're my number 5, Abduction and Black Blood. Okay, number 4, and another one that I was hoping was going to be here by now, but it's delayed in post anyway, but I have bought it. Image inserted. It is Ukraine's Hate Forest, and their most recent album from last year, Innermost. This is a sensational bit of raw, atmospheric, brutal, and almost folky at times black metal. Again, politically, we're in the sketchy realms. I know certainly earlier Hate Forest is fairly fucking overt, which is disappointing. Yeah, sit on whatever political side of the divide that you want, but I just think it's fucking... It just strikes me as sort of childish, wanting to be offensive. And I've no problem with being nationalist in a sense. If you're proud of your nationality, I don't have an issue with that. It's when it becomes toxic and when it becomes anti every other fucking thing that you've lost me at that point. I switch off. But anyway, I've digressed. But yeah, this album in particular, Hate Forest, Innermost, absolutely brutal attack from start to finish. It's so atmospheric. There's so much evil in them riffs as well in places. But like I say, there's melody and there's almost folky hints. I mean, the Ukrainian bands often have that. Like, it's some of the guys out of Drudka, I believe. There's another Ukrainian band as well. Is it Nocturnal Mortem? They're full-on folky, but they're also full-on National Socialist bellends. So, but anyway, I digress. There's an atmosphere about this Ukrainian stuff, and I think it's particularly resonant on this Hate Forest album. It's a fabulous fucking record. I'm waiting for the CD to turn up. I wanted the vinyl, but I can't find any particular cheap, not with postage on top and all that. Postage costs these days. So I've gone for a CD, and I found it on Discogs secondhand. So if there are any National Socialist leanings, then I've not directly funded it that way. That's, again, how I justify it personally. like I say, I think they're lesser. They've not really distanced themselves enough from it for my liking, but there's no real obvious. And again, I think that's a key argument point. I think purely nationalist sentiment, to be proud of your nation, isn't straight up National Socialism either. There are grey areas to that, and I think we need to look slightly less black and white on it. But anyway, I'm riffing once again. But yeah, so number 4, Hate Forest Innermost, great album. If you've not heard it, do so. Number 3, and as mentioned with Death Heaven before, this is a band that truly made me tip over into black metal. It's Winterfilleth, and as mentioned on previous videos, my favourite record of theirs personally, The Dark Hereafter. There are so many good songs on all Winterfilleth albums, actually, to be honest, because from what I've heard, and I'm pretty sure I've heard all the back catalogue now, they've not done a bad record, personally. The Mercy and Sphere, there's the fucking Thedenry of... anyway, however that one's pronounced. And, of course, the Reckoning Dawn, the latest one. I believe they're in the studio now. I'm very excited about the new stuff coming out, but anyway, might be back end of this year or next year at this rate. But this album in particular, now it's the Reckoning Dawn that made me get into this band, but this album is the one that I thought, oh, this is my favourite. There's so many good songs on here. You've got The Dark Hereafter, the opening track, Pariah's Path, the second track, which is one of my favourite Winterfilleth tracks of all time. It is beautifully structured, and the melodies in there are outstanding with the shrieking black metal vocal going over the top of it. It's just so atmospheric. It's beautifully done, and I think these are one of the best atmospheric black metal bands out there. They're a sensational band. If you don't know about them, fuck me, get out there and listen. They're one of my favourite black metal bands of all time, personally. So anyway, yeah, Pariah's Path, another Ensigns of Victory, is another monster of a fucking track. And one of my favourite ones of theirs, not strictly black metal, a bit more sort of stripped away, atmospheric, almost doomy in places, Green Cathedral. Absolutely sensational track. There's not a bad track on this album. It's fucking marvellous. And that is why I went to Philith to my number 3, and with their album, The Dark Hereafter. Okay, top 2. And any of you that regularly watch my videos will have seen... I can't get it back in sheath. Can't get it back in. There we are. That watch my videos regularly, well, I've already seen this anyway. But yeah, my number 2 greatest modern black metal albums is Achilles' Melano. Great cover, great album from start to finish. If you can imagine that image in musical form, that's what you get on this record. It's pure evil, atmospheric brutality. And I think it covers all bases for black metal purists, for atmospheric black metal purists. It's just fabulous. This is the other project of Kyle Spanswick of Nightbringer. He's got various other projects on go, but everything he does is really good. Again, another one that somehow managed to get himself pulled in a lot of this this cancel culture rhetoric, and I don't get the impression that there's any National Socialist overtly on this. I think he might be more conservative leaning, but yeah, that's a different side of the political spectrum, which is acceptable. You know, not everyone's going to be on the same path. But anyway, you don't get that from this album. It's not overtly part of the lyrics, part of the structure, anything. What it is a fabulously fucking brilliant black metal record. Opening straight off the bat with Somniloquy that just goes right at it, wallop straight in. Some of the song titles on here are very difficult to pronounce. You've got Nigalian, is it? Nigalian, the second track, which is probably the most famous one off of this. Again, brilliant. My favourite though is the track Ephialtes. Penultimate track. Incubatio is the final track, and that's also a fucking ripper. But again, no bad stuff on this album. It is sensational. Just, I've not written much in the way of notes. I think I've already told you how amazing it is. But just fucking brutal excellence. It's brilliant. And finally, and you'll have seen this before in my collection, but the finest modern black metal album for me is by Poland's very own Mgła. And it's the Exercises in Futility album. The Age of... whatever the most recent one's called, is another fucking belt of a record. But I think this just captures atmospheric black metal in its fucking purest and rawest form. It's just sensational. And it's the, I think I realised that atmospheric black metal's probably more my bag, if I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not into too many synth. There's no fucking synths on here, by the way. But I like a bit of synth influence. There's a bit of synth influence on Kris and Nightbringer and stuff like that. But I'm not too keen on it being brutally in your face. There's a French black metal band called Vehemence, which I've discovered again via Altars of Madness. That's just a little too synthy and folky for my liking. It might make sense to me eventually, but I prefer it to be, I like that atmospheric feel, but with enough stripped back in it so that it doesn't go too far over the edge for me. And anyway, atmospheric wise, this certainly doesn't. Musically, it's sensational. They've all got, the drummer in particular is just outrageous in this band. But they're all, to a man, brilliant. The atmosphere created on this is sensational. And there's not really much else to say about it. I'm sure you all know about it, but Maguire's Exercises in Futility is my favourite modern black metal band album of all time. And that is that. I can't think of much else to say. A little sip of coffee there. Yeah, no Green Sabre updates at the moment. We're just steadily rumbling away in the background, just getting the new songs tight to go into the studio this year at some point. So watch this space. But yeah, that's going to happen. We're sort of weighing up what studio we're going to. We've got a couple of options at the moment, all of which are fucking expensive. So hey, extra large and XXL people, we've still got some t-shirts for sale. Your purchase can help fund this this next expensive fucking hobby that we all partake in. But yeah, so that's the plan this year. So yeah, rumbling away in the background. We've apart from this Lizard Fest gig June 3rd, we've no other gigs confirmed as it stands at the moment. But we will have. We're hoping to get another 2 or 3 at least out in the next couple of months organised. So yeah, watch this space. That was my top 10 modern black metal albums. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, I went on for far too fucking long because I can't stop talking. Next week's video, what will it be about? Who knows? You will just have to wait and see. Oh, actually, you might have to wait a bit longer. That was what I was going to say. I'm on holiday next week. Me and the family are off to the Lake District for a week. So, I doubt there will be a video unless I do it from the top of fucking Helvellyn or something. But, yeah, I doubt there'll be any content next week. Or what I might do is do it when I get home. Anyway, watch this space. Worst case scenario, though, there will be a week gap between the next one. So you'll just have to wait and watch everyone else's great content. Until then, again, thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Thank you again. That was the other thing I had to fucking mention. This is what I do as well. I say bye about 40 times at the end of fucking videos because I forget stuff. The other thing I wanted to say was thank you ever so much to the new subscribers. We have breached 100 subscribers. In fact, as it stands at the moment, we've got 103. I'm beyond made up about that. When I started doing these Doom Telly videos way back at the start of October, I think it was last year, we had 12 subscribers to this channel. Granted, there was little or no fucking content ever put on there, so that will explain why. But to say that from October that we're now at 103 subscribers, I can't believe. So massive thanks to all of you, old and new. Thanks for subscribing, and I'm glad that you are enjoying my waffly content. Right, that really is enough. Thank you again for watching. Like and subscribe. Let's have some more of you. And I will see you next time, maybe in 2 weeks. Later, guys.